Hey guys, Aura 1 through 4 here. It's that time of year again, ban list season. Fake ban lists are probably popping up all over the place. I haven't been paying too much attention because I've had a lot of schoolwork, but I decided to once again go with my ban list wish list. This is, as I say, a wish list. I'm not going to try to predict everything that's going to go on the ban list because every year a curveball gets thrown. So I just want to start off by saying I disagree with how the current ban list system is working. I think our ban list should be every 3 months and not every 6 months because I'm tired of a new starter deck or a new booster pack coming out and something stupid happening and completely breaking our format. Samurai did it. The Inzektor and the Wind-Up deck did that, especially with the hand drop. To a certain extent, Chaos Dragons did it, but they really flourished because Dino Rabbit became such a popular deck. And Water's done that this format. And Water hasn't done that to as great of a scale as like the hand drop or Inzektors did at their time. But I am, for one, missing the era of Synchrocentric for two big reasons. One, I think that was the most skill-based format I've played in. And two, because I think Synchro monsters are better than Xyz monsters. I think the Xyz mechanic pretty much ruined the game because it is way too easy to do it and there are way too many one-card Xyz monsters. Like, let's look at like Synchro monsters. One of the big name one-card Synchro monsters, Rescue Cat, is banned for that exact reason. I mean, look at like Debris Dragon, Junk Synchron, Blackwing Blizzard. They all had to have setup required. Where you can just plop down a tour guide or a Rescue Rabbit and, oh, look at that, you got yourself an Xyz monster. Not to say that I have inherent problems with Rescue Rabbit. I more have issues with the idea of how every game is like who can spam the Xyz monsters the fastest half the time. But anyways, on to the cards I think should be banned. There are 3 cards that I think could fall under the ban list, and I'm going through them in order of importance. The first one is the card needs to get banned. Monster Reborn. This card is so unfair. There are so many games where a Reborn gives somebody who has no business winning game. It's completely free. Oh, look at that, you warninged my card. Oh, let me Reborn that whatever. Like, the more common one was when Lone Fire was super relevant, but Reborn isn't a fair card. I think it needs to be banned. I'm surprised it hasn't been banned the past format, but Reborn needs banned. It was on the ban list for a while, and it needs to go back. Next card, Blackluster Soldier, Envoy of the Beginning. Yes, Blackluster Soldier has been that relevant this format. That's just because the decks that he was in haven't been doing as well. The problem is, Blackluster Soldier himself is too powerful of a card. He lets you do way too many unfair things. He's way too easy to summon. I would like to see him go away. But if Reborn goes away, I can deal with him staying. Next, Pot of Avarice. This card, I'm about 50-50 on whether I could... Like, if it doesn't get banned, oh well. I just think that the decks that use Avarice abuse it way too much. Like, Wind-Ups and Water. Like, Avarice can be way too abused in that deck, but I'm 50-50. Like, if they hit other things on the list that make Avarice really like a lifesaver card for them, I'm okay with Avarice staying. I'm just tired of being like, oh, let me pick this all back up. Those are the only 3 cards I think are worthy of being banned right now. There are a couple of cards that like hedge for me, but those are the 3 most important. Next, onto the cards I think should be limited. Mystical Space Typhoon. This card has no business being a 3. We have Heavy Storm, 3 MSTs, 3 Night Beams, 3 Dust Tornadoes. If you want to play back row removal, play a Night Beam or a Dust Tornado or something. You do not need 3 MSTs. This card is way too good to be at 3. We were discussing this at my locals the other week. If MST was at 1 and Heavy was at 1, and your opponent was gonna was right at the beginning of the game, you're probably only gonna set 1 card. But now because MST's at 3, and your MST's probably gonna end up in like their opening hand most likely, you're going to set 2, and then they're just going to heavy and blow you out. I think a lot of the reason why people are like, oh, heavy needs ban is because MST is at 3. And you're forced to set more cards because you're likely to lose at least one of them to an MST. And then when they do have the heavy, it just blows you away. So MST needs limited. Next, Wind Up Magician. This card is such a broke-ass piece of the wind-up loop. This facilitates everything broken in their deck. And, you know, this card wouldn't be as bad if the effect didn't have to, like, even if the effect was negated, Wind Up Magician still gets its effect. And it's just way too easy to get off. With Wind Up Magician at 1 and Shark at 3, you'd still be able to have like a very specific way to get to like a broke Shockmaster play, but it is just way too easy to get it with Magician and Factory at 3. And the reason why I wouldn't say Shark needs touched is because Shark fills all of the holes that deck had. If you look at the original OCG wind-up deck, when we had just gotten Shark, their deck was played completely different because they didn't have Shark to cover up all the holes in that deck. Like, they were running things like Gillosaurus and Junk Forward and Marauding Captain just to try to get that extra special. Wind Up Shark fixed that hole, and it makes them a very valid deck. Wind Up Magician breaks that deck. So, Magician to 1. The second card I would say for the Wind Up deck that needs it is Wind Up Factory. Wind Up Factory is way too easy to proc. Well, I compare it to Black Whirlwind, but I will discuss Black Whirlwind later in depth. Unlike Whirlwind, this is easy to get off. Your normal summon, like Black Whirlwind, if the normal summon is negated or is destroyed, this effect doesn't go off. The Whirlwind doesn't go off. This effect just has to be attempted to activate, and you get to search. It needs to be a 1. That's a really stupid effect. Next, Atlantean Dragoons. I don't think they're going to hit too much on the water deck because of how new it is, just like I don't think they're going to hit the Fire Fist deck too much because of how new it is. But if you limit Atlantean Dragoons, it's going to slow the deck down exponentially. They're probably going to have... They might even end up dropping the Undyne engine, or at least making the Undyne engine like a 2 Undyne. Dragoons being able to search out essentially anything you want on the deck is absurd. It can search out any of the ammo pieces. It can search out Mulan Glacia. It can search out Megalo. It can search out Lead if you're running it. It's stupid. Needs limited. Next, Machina Gearframe. Machina Gearframe is essentially Shadows, but instead of where Shadows can get you a relatively balanced monster, like Alias or Bubbleman or Diamond Dude or Malicious, where it requires a little bit of setup to use, adding Machina Fortress to your hand is absurd. And now that we're going to have like Tin Goldfish and all the support, Gearframe just needs limited. Next, Snow, Unlight of the Dark Worlds. I am not a big fan of the way Dark Worlds play. I love the deck, hate the way they play. I think the mechanic of getting effects off of discards is great, but Snow being able to search out any Dark World card in your deck is absurd. If you put her at 1, it'll slow the deck down, and I don't think it needs to be as fast as it is. Next, I think Glow Up Bulb should be at 1. I think they need to give tuners and synchro monsters a big push. They were such an important and good part of our game, and I understand that he wanted to promote the new Xyz mechanic, but there was no excuse for crippling synchros the way they did. So, Plant Synchro hasn't been doing much, so give them Glow Up Bulb. I think that would be a great idea. Plus, since it's so generic, it would give all synchro-based decks a little bit of an oomph. And since Tengu's at 2, you really don't have to worry about too much shenanigans. Next, Rekindling. I went back and forth on whether I thought Rekindling should be limited or Lava Volcano Handmaiden should be limited. And then I thought to myself, Lava Volcano Handmaiden, while it provides a ridiculous amount of setup, it is ultimately the Rekindling that makes the Quasar play really broken. So, with a limiting of Rekindling, the deck is still viable, and you can still run the Pyrorex, because one thing I really like about the deck is how 1 multi-conduction field equals Pyrorex. The only thing I'm nervous about is if you do limit this card, I think the deck might be crippled, and I don't believe that a banlist should cripple a deck. I think it should just make it more balanced. But, anyways, here's on to the semi-limited. TG Striker. there's no excuse for this card to be at 1 still. The deck that really made TGs broken in Japan, TG Agents, the reason why they were running the Striker is because of how easy it was to make the Trish. And I think Synchro should have, as a tuner monster, Synchro should get a little bit more, as I said. Mizuki to 2. I think zombies need a little bit more love, and Mizuki would give them a little bit more speed without really breaking them. Next, Black Whirlwind to 2. While it's similar to Wind Up Factory, Black Whirlwind is such a neutered version of it. Well, it's the original version of it, so it's a little bit more balanced. Requiring it to be the normal summon and then, based off of attack, you're really restricted on what you're going to grab. And you're only going to really get 1 per turn, maybe 2 if you open up double Whirlwinds. Which, it happens, but that'd be really broken. I think Black Wings need a little bit of an oomph, so Whirlwind to 2. Next, Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. Grapha's too easy to recur, semi-limit him, make him a little bit more vulnerable. Same thing with Hyperion. Hyperion is way too easy to summon. If you semi-limit Hyperion, they have the 2 Crishias, they have Chaos Sork. They don't need 3 Hyperions. Just make it easier to get rid of. Next, Inzektor Centipede, semi-limited. We have 3 Call of the Haunted. Centipede does not need to be at 3. Centipede being able to search out any Inzektor card is stupid. Like, Zech's Caliber is ridiculous with Centipede. Semi-limit the Centipede, slow the deck down, and I think with these changes we would still see Inzektors show up, but just not at a ridiculous scale. Next, Formula Synchron to 2. Synchros need a boost. I would like to see Formula Synchron back to 2 with a glow-up bulb. That's just me because I love Synchros. And then, if you're not going to bring back Glow-Up Bulb, I think you should semi-limit Lone Fire Blossom to give plants the extra boost they need. One or the other. Or both. I'd be okay with having a plant synchro format again. And then, there's only 1 card right now that I feel that can be truly unlimited, and that's Destiny Hero Malicious. Really hasn't done anything right now. I love the Teletaph Nuit deck, but it really isn't that spectacular. So I think with 3 Maliciouses and 3 D-Draws, we might see some D-Hero comeback. So, I hope at least some of these changes end up on the ban list. I've talked to a lot of people at my locals, and a lot of them are like, I've agreed that like the start of this format looked like it was going to be amazing, and then it just sort of fell flat on its face when you realize that they didn't even touch wind-ups in a relevant way. There's a lot of players I know that are looking at this next ban list to see if they want to keep playing this game. And I think it would have been a mistake to ruin a game with a crappy ban list and like, oh, well, we'll just keep letting the broke decks that we want to promote be good even if they're completely unfair, and these old decks that everybody actually likes and that were balanced, we're going to make them die off. I don't agree with that concept. I do think that there is going to be power creep, and it's important to promote new decks, but you shouldn't throw away old decks just because they're old. But I'll catch you guys later.